So second day here, obviously, and I was late, and I was thinking about it for Joshua. He's a little frustrated with me, but I can't wait till he gets a working wife and kids, and then has to deal with suburban traffic. So apologize for being late.
Joshua was here at 7 in the morning.
Seven. I
Hey,
know I saw that.
the benefits of being a single young man in America.
I also last night went to bed early, and then I woke up at 1 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't fall back asleep till 4 a.m. Like, don't understand it. I'm like, I feel like I'm getting old, like crazy stuff that would have never happened to me before. But anyway, all right. Welcome to Development Discourse. I'm Adam Wanis. Got Joshua Adlam, Emma Maury. Excited for episode 2. We had a really good first showing. Got to talk about a lot of projects that are happening in Orlando. Want to start out, as always, with our fun topic, fun real estate project that's happened in the market. So, Emma, what's going on in Orlando?
Well, in Orlando, in this very popular neighborhood in Winter Park, there's a property for 2,900 square feet that recently sold for $3.1 million to a popular restaurant here, Agave Azul. So kind of
Yep.
exciting to see this transaction happen. I'm excited to see what they're going to make of it. But you're familiar with this area, Adam, Winter Park?
Yes. Yep. Got some projects there, or wish I had some there sometimes. But I do know Agave Azul, and the building that they're the first location that they were in. I actually was working on financing when I was at the bank, and I've had the opportunity to meet Juan, really good operator. I know that they've just like blown up. It's been fun to watch. I know they've been looking for other locations and have done really well. So really cool to see this happen. Especially in the area that it is, and really sets a precedent. I think the most exciting part, it sets a precedent for some retail in Orlando. What was the price per square foot?
It was like over 1,000 square feet, or over 1,000 per square foot. So, I mean, it's an amazing transaction.
I love it. If
Alex
you
bid
own retail
over
property right now,
300.
you've got to be jumping up and down with excitement, to see this happen. And one, I mean, it's always fun for people to look at the price per square foot that it sells, but what it means to me is that our restaurants and restaurateurs are hitting some great numbers on the sales side, to be able to support doing these types of projects in these really great locations. So overall, just cool for Orlando, great for Agave Azul, and Juan and their team. So I was really excited to see this.
Yeah, really exciting also to see like retail and restaurants, like you said, coming out of the COVID fog and actually starting to make some business and make some good business. So excited for this.
Joshua, you've got Tampa. You're in Seminole Heights, right now, and what when you compare kind of Tampa's restaurant scene, what do you think about it when you come to Orlando? Is it different?
Yeah, great question, Adam. I think Tampa is way better. I just got to throw it out there, man. I'm biased. You know what I
Oh,
mean? Being in here for the
Defend that.
last
Defend
three
that.
years, I'm super happy for Agave Azul. I'm just happy for any asset class in real estate that's crushing it right now. But Tampa in general, Tampa has a lot of young, new, I would say, restaurants and kind of local shops. We're kind of doing away from these national chains.
what's
And
your
so
favorite restaurant there right now? Like your favorite local?
in Seminole Heights, it has to be Chenko, Asian Fusion. I love it. Chenko's my number
Nice.
one right now. Kava is a national chain that I really like as well. But if I had to go like a small local business, Chenko for sure. It's right in Seminole Heights, and so it's definitely a great place to eat and kind of
I
just
like
enjoy.
coming over and visiting you because I haven't been in a little bit, but you always taking me someplace new and exciting. I will have to probably, I will give Tampa credit. They've got a really cool, either local neighborhood restaurant scene is really good. And I feel like every time you go somewhere, there's something going on. But I am, just to have people like Juan and like Kabuki Sushi here and the Monroe, and there's just so many good little,
Oh, Juju.
like I wouldn't say little, but so many great restaurant operators, starting amazing concepts. I went to one in um, over by Baldwin Park on Corinne, the Foreigner. Really cool
Oh,
restaurant experience. Anybody that is looking for something that's like a little more intimate, I believe there's like 10 to 12 people a night. That was such a fun experience. So I'm excited for Orlando. This is cool to see, and love seeing people succeed. So awesome. This is an article that I pulled. I was reading the Wall Street Journal, and I've been, we've owned Atrium now for about 8 years. And when I first started, it was it was a single family management company. And that was really unheard of. And I remember a lot of people at the bank telling me, like, what are you doing? You're going to go manage houses. And when I read this article, it was pretty cool to see that one of the single family management companies out there has about 100,000 doors, has
Wow.
tapped what was going to be. Some believe, I don't know the exact details of it, but some believe that this gentleman was going to be the vying for the CEO of Morgan Stanley, and now he's running a single family um, management company. They've got a lot more things going on that they've evolved over the year, and they provide mortgages and different instruments for real estate overall. But Jonathan Prusen was at Morgan Stanley and is now working with I think it's Pretium, Pretium. But he's now their president. So just cool to see some bigger Wall Street people moving over to this space. It was mostly, and when I started, run by kind of the mom and pops of the world, and there's still a lot of great operators out there that run small, single family management companies. But it was just an interesting dynamic and change for me to watch and see something like that happen. So it's been fun to watch our growth at the same time. But just to see that there's more and more talent kind of moving into this space was awesome for me.
Yeah, and Adam, I always like the story when you and Mike tell it of how you guys acquired Atrium and started with 228 units, and in a
Yeah.
matter of what, less than 8 years, you guys have grown this into more than 6,000 units at this point.
Yeah, it's been fun. We've obviously grown. There's three of us when we started, so it was pretty cool. Now there's over 100 great, awesome people at Atrium. So anyway, I mean, I think this space is really becoming it's attracting larger capital. It's attracting larger investors. I even think all the way from the smaller mom and pop operators. There's more people that are getting this. There's more people that owned homes that are now renting out their home. They're using it. If they had to move, they've usually got such a good mortgage in place that they can rent their home for more than their mortgage is. So it's just a space that's really growing. And like I said, you read the Wall Street Journal, you see something like this, you get a big time name to move into the space, and I think it helps all of us, and really formalizes this as more of a business. So pretty cool to see.
Yeah, Adam, I was thinking too, with seeing this article, I thought it was cool because I'm just thinking from an operator standpoint, a company like this moving into this space, how it affects the small local businesses, that we are similar to us. I know we've had a lot of growth in the last 6, 7 years, but just from like a skill set standpoint, how do you think these larger companies will fare in like being in this competitive market? Do you think they would be successful? You think they have like kind of like their tough times coming in? What do you see that looking like?
Yes, I'm actually reading Steve Jobs' book for the first time. It's something I should have read a long time ago, but it's the biography by, I think it's Walter Isaacson, and he talks so much about Macintosh, like obviously Apple and the Macintosh, fighting IBM, like fighting the big boys. And I kind of look at us like that. They weren't the Navy, they were the pirates. And I loved what he instilled in his team to be nimble, to be able to move. So I think the opportunity is for everybody. Obviously, the larger players have the opportunity to raise more funds, make bigger moves. But the little guy out there like us has the opportunity to, really take some big market share, be nimble, be quick, huge market share, on our scale. But just listen to that book if you haven't listened to it, just to hear the way he rallied the troops, that it was them against the world. They were the misfits and they were going to take down this industry. And then to fast forward 30 years later and look what Apple has become, it's
Right.
just pretty impressive. So it kind of reminded me when I was when you asked me that question, that's the first thing that popped in my head, is like, this is the best time. He also talked about the journey, and it's not about the money or anything like that. It's about the journey. It's about the three of us and the 100 of us at Atrium. Just saying, hey, can we do this? Can we really take on a company with 100,000 units and win? And that makes me excited. So
I love it. Makes me feel more competitive too. I get excited when I hear more people get into this space as well. It makes me think about what we can learn from them and how we can continue to grow our business.
yeah, and you can
It's
learn.
great. I think the large guys should be just as not afraid, but just as challenged by all the smaller operators that have been in the business much longer. Because I think
Yeah.
one call it personable attribute that smaller companies have is we have the ability to connect more directly with our owners and call it tenants than some of these larger operations. So I love the competition, but I think that they should just be as worried as we are.
Rising tide lifts all boats, so it'll be cool. But
That's
that was
right.
really fun to see. Also, I read another article, Emma, you saw as well. Um,
Uh,
Real estate development wise, what's going on in South Florida right now?
Well, really excited to see this St. Regis Residence Tower come alive. So they broke ground just earlier in the month. So this is going to be the tallest residential tower in Sunny Isles, Florida, at 750 feet. The first tower, the South Tower, is scheduled to come on with the first 175 luxury units. But this project just is not only beautiful to look at, so I have to celebrate the architect and the design team behind this project. I think it's a very unique looking building. And if you see the photos of how it just towers over all these other buildings, it's impressive. So I'm really excited to see this one come alive, especially in South Florida.
Yeah, I think when, just we're obviously real estate people, and I'm just in awe when the engineers and architects come up with something like this. The tallest building in South Florida, pretty amazing. I always, I figure like if you want to make a statement, being the tallest is one of the greatest ways to do it. Obviously, there's other ways with architecture, design, all that, but just as a immediate statement is like, wow. And then you think about how hard it is to build a building, like you're pretty much in the ocean, and
Yeah,
when you start talking about
yeah,
underground parking garages and how deep they're going, right next to the ocean, I just get
right.
amazed by the engineers and what they can accomplish. And so it's exciting for me. That was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, it's incredible. Like this structure, like just by the water, the amount of soil work. Just thinking through, our development. Every time we're thinking about looking at a new property, I'm already thinking about soil conditions. I can only imagine the engineering that goes behind putting this tower right by the water.
Yeah, I think this is a project that we follow too, just so we can see how deep, like get some of the details. And I definitely want to go tour this one and see it, as it's under construction because this is awesome.
I would argue too, man, that South Florida has some of the best best looking buildings, across the state. Like if you just do a quick Google search, I'll share my screen with here. Like it just looks so cool if you can just see some of the buildings in South Florida. I mean, look at this. You won't see buildings like this anywhere else across the state. And so having this there, it just adds to the coolness factor of what South Florida, particularly Miami, has to offer as far as its architecture. And just as a real estate guy, I just find it so interesting how people are consistent and kind of like you said, Adam, making a standpoint and getting some of these buildings built.
I think it's fun, every time a new project like this comes up, as even just being here in Central Florida, every time we announce one, I think that's going to happen more and more over the next 10 years. And, I love to watch skylines change, and there's nothing to me, there's nothing more beautiful, more exciting. It's funny how, some people can see a mountain range, be like, wow, that's amazing. And I appreciate the mountain range too. But if you see a city, that's just unbelievable. I've never been to Dubai. Like it's one of the reasons I want to go to Dubai. And I hear, it's just, I need to see it, and see what
Right.
it looks like. 'Cause that's
I'm
my,
actually dying to go to Singapore. Singapore to me has one of the most beautiful buildings in the world. And I love Japan. I've been to Japan. Again, some of the most beautiful architecture, but oh my gosh, when I see these buildings in Singapore, I'm just thinking, how can we get these designs over here? Let's build that here.
yeah. And that's
Yeah.
pretty funny. That's kind of what Dubai did. They just took the best buildings from all over the world and then made them huge. So pretty cool.
I had a report that I wanted to go over, just kind of trickling down to some of the rents in the market. I found this cool report online. Let me see if I can pull it up here. So, as you can see, this is by rent.com, the August 2023 rent report. So, just looking at the median rents, I thought this was very interesting. Median rents across the United States as of July 2023 is $2,000. So kind of as you can tell, it's still pretty high, but year over year, it only had a 0.31%. To me, that is incredibly low. which just kind of shows the times that we're in. And then month over month, we had a 0.41% increase. Brutal. I haven't seen this in the last 4 years. It's been really tough out here for these new investors and just anybody penciling deals right now to justify 3 to 5% year rent growth unless we're just doing traditional value add. Um, Kind of just
Actually,
scrolling down.
one kind of bright spot in that is that year over year is 0.31%, but even the month over month, the fact that it's increasing, even that little bit is pretty good because I've mostly seen negative rent growth. So just even in the short term, the fact that it ticked up a little bit is okay. Even though it's not like what we used to see.
Yeah. Agreed. And then kind of diving a little bit deeper, I thought this was really cool. So they kind of highlighted some of the major cities in America and just kind of did a little detailed explanation of population, median rent, year over year percent change, and month over month. So if you scroll down to where we're at in Orlando right now, so Orlando has basically 2.7 million people. Median rent is $2,100, but we're down 2.36% year over year, and then month negative 0.61%. So negative rent growth in Orlando right now. And then just scrolling up to Tampa, Tampa's at 3.2 million people, $2,200 average or median rent across the city. And then again, negative rent growth year over year, 0.57 between last year and then 0.36 over the last month. So it's
Who has the highest rent growth?
Let's see, highest rent growth, Kansas City, Missouri.
Well, I wonder what's happening there right now.
Adam, we got to start looking at Kansas City.
Yeah.
Numbers speak for itself.
Well, I think you're also, a lot of these Southeast markets, like we just went on an unbelievable run on rent growth, 22% year over year. So you're even with a negative 2%, pullback based on the past 3 years of increases. If you told them up, we're still, much higher, obviously. So you can see like from the list of the top, rent growth areas like Oklahoma City, Memphis, Tennessee, Minneapolis. Some of these hadn't had the same type of growth we've had, but I mean, Kansas City, that's so high. I'd love to just see what, maybe they're getting newer product that's pushing it up. Is it median versus, I guess, if you look at median versus average, kind of see what the deal is there. The Sprint, I don't know what major businesses are there, but that'd be interesting to look at.
And look at your beloved Columbus. Columbus right now, 5% rent growth. Oh my goodness. What's going on in
Columbus, Ohio? I grew up there. I left 17 years ago or 18 years ago. Just now that we had the properties up there, the amount of stuff that's being built around Ohio State University, the medical that's going up, and then you have the chip factory going up right now. They've got 2,000 jobs. Columbus is on fire. So I was a Columbus, Ohio kid. I'm proud.
We'll take our.
You know what I'm also wondering with this graph, Joshua? I'm wondering if it has anything to do with the amount of new product coming into these cities and the terms of leases for everything that's existing. So, on the states where it's showing negative growth, I wonder if that really has to do with there's a negative rent growth, or there's just not a lot of new lease turnovers or newer property that's coming on to reflect the growth. Because I'd be actually very curious to dive in a little deeper on this and understand why it's showing a negative when we know, for example, City of Orlando is growing so fast. I think, correct me here, Adam, but wasn't it something north of 1,000 people per month moving into the city?
It's 1,000 people a week that are moving to Orlando. And it was as high as at 1,500. So, we just have a lot of product coming online right now. I can't remember the number from the last CoStar report, but there's a lot of units that are coming in, and so that softens the market a little bit. That will change. But like I said, even a small pullback isn't that dramatic based on the increases that we've experienced. So it's not like, even in our business, it's not like you've seen rental rates drop dramatically. They've definitely moved, down. We're not pushing them anymore. But I do think it's just a factor of the amount of new product that's coming on the market. So it's hurting these bigger cities that experienced a lot of growth. And some of these smaller cities where you may not have had as many people mobilized with projects, they're now experiencing some of that growth because people ran out of spots and to build in Orlando, so you start moving around, money starts looking for a place to go, and so all of a sudden Kansas City may have had 5 new projects come online that are Class A that are driving that number up right now. So you're right though, we do have to get into the weeds on it, but
Also, too, just to kind of round it out and highlight this data, I always get curious about what's going on in California. And so to see California, have two solid cities with 6 and 7% year-over-year rent growth is actually pretty cool to me as well. We hear all the time in the Southeast, you have everybody moving from California to Florida, people from the North moving from up there to down to Florida where it's warmer. And so still to see these two cities in California, I just think it's still pretty cool. But kind of like you guys said, I'm curious to see, is it just a new development that's coming online? What it is kind of really dictating these positive and negative rent growth. I would think, in my mind, so many people leaving California that they might be, struggling to rent properties, but still pretty cool to see that they're achieving some decent rent growth.
Yep. I mean, in my mind, just to give you my hot take on it. I mean, California, there's not, they can't build as quickly. There's so many regulations. There's not that much new product. I'm just making that up. I have no data to back that up, but I assume there's not as much new product coming online. So that rent growth will continue. And in some of those major markets like LA and San Francisco, they do have people leaving. San Diego's a great city. I would be hard to leave San Diego, but I do think it's just harder to build there as well. So you don't have as much inventory flooding the market. So you'll get a steady increase. Like 6% is good. 3% is good, but 6% is just a solid number as well. So it's not anything crazy like 20%. But that would be my take on California and those couple cities like San Jose. Just a little more difficult to build there, so less inventory flooding. So you're going to keep that steady increase going.
I don't know, Joshua, you as a young single guy, what other state would you want to live in if it wasn't Florida?
Man, I got to go somewhere where it's warm. So the first thing that comes to mind is Scottsdale, Arizona. That's where I'm going. You know what I mean? I know it's a little bit more expensive, but it's hot, nice weather. I definitely have to go somewhere out west. I got to be in the warm weather.
Have you been to Scottsdale?
Never, but I heard it's beautiful. Is that true, Adam?
My mom lives there, but she used to live there when I was in college as well. And just coming from Ohio and going to Scottsdale, I was like, wow, this is a life for the rich and famous. Like, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it is expensive, but it is gorgeous. And so I'm happy to go there with you. We can go in the next few months. So
let's do it. Let's make it a trip. Check out some real estate while we're out there.
Love it. I just want to end on one piece before we get out of here. I just think it's important that we kind of look at what's happening overall with the yield curve right now, as far as the 10-year Treasury and the SOFR. We watch these. I've been watching them daily as well, just to kind of see where they shake out, because it's so important when we're going out to get loans right now. As of this graph, this is just an internal graph that we keep. Just kind of shows the relationship of SOFR versus the 10-year Treasury. And I've actually been watching this, closely, and it's starting to tick back up again as far as the 10-year Treasury. But you can see we're still inverted right now. So, you've got really high short-term rates. The long-term rates are a little lower, but all of it right now is trending upward essentially. So just something to pay attention to when you're going out to get loans right now, and seeing where your, whatever your spread is based on the 10-year Treasury or 7-year, whatever it is. I look at these two, on a monthly basis, just to kind of see the relationship between the two of them and where they're heading. Also, we'll pull the forward yield curve a lot, just to see where that's heading and what people are predicting. And, I always look for when that forward, you can go to a number of websites to look at what they think is going to happen. But, when those two lines, kind of cross back over, it's more of a normal period, and it's looking like that's later into 2024. It keeps getting pushed out further and further, which means we can probably expect rates to be higher, longer, based on what's happening in the world today. So that can all change, with some sort of event that happens, something catastrophic. You keep looking, just headlines I looked at this week, one of the largest Chinese developers is in trouble. Last month, they missed two of their debt payments. They ended up making those payments, but they were just building, and they didn't have people moving in, and so that China's a large enough economy right now where it affects the world, more substantially. So it's something to watch. We also have a lot of loans coming due over the next 2 years in the U.S. And all these loans are going to reset at a higher rate. They'll keep the same spread, but the indexes have increased. So you'll have people that were at the 3.5%, 4% range now up in the 7.5%, 8%. Anecdotally, we had someone tell us, Emma, a couple of weeks ago, they went from I think 4% to 9.
Yeah.
And that I'll never forget in banking in 2007. I had a Dunkin' Donuts franchisee call me, and the prime rate just started shooting up, and he told me the spread, I can't remember the exact amount, but his payment just increased so substantially. He's like, I can't make the payment. I'm like, I don't know how you would. And so just kind of hearing those things makes those resets that are happening, it puts a lot of pressure on a property, it puts a lot of pressure on a small business. And so we'll just have a lot of loans coming due over the next 2 years. And so that could cause some sort of event, to unfold. It already has started. You already start to hear, stories of things, and obviously office buildings that are being given back right now. You can just pull up, the Wall Street Journal every day and read about something that's happening. So anyway, it's just interesting time. It was so great for so long. It's just interesting to kind of hear these things happening again. It reminds me of this, my days in banking and what I would hear every day. And I was like, that was right after I graduated college. So every day was like, that can happen. So I just wonder for like the younger generation out there, as they start to hear these things, does it change their perspective going forward on real estate investing and what they'll do? Kind of nobody had a caution gear as they were going over the last 3 years. They're like, I'm going to have the most properties. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And it's like, there was no thought of this could happen just because you hadn't seen it. And I remember when I graduated, I started doing deals, and I remember when they told us we couldn't lend anymore, I didn't even know that was an option. Like no one had told me that could happen. So just interesting to watch kind of the younger generation go through their first recession. The only one I've really ever been through is the big one. So fun for me to watch and see how this plays out as well.
Yeah. One thing I want to add is, for me coming in real estate within the last 4 years, I came in kind of like during the COVID year. Prices started going way up. Rent was at an all-time high, sale price was really high, and then now I'm seeing it kind of mellow down. And so for me, it's always interesting to be able to see, two sides flip so quickly with me just being in my first 5 years of real estate. And I hear all these people who are veterans in the industry, and they always talk about, understanding the cycles and being able to kind of mitigate risk between them. So I just feel like I'm getting all this knowledge and being able to see all these market shifts so quickly within the first 5 years. It makes me like excited, but one, it makes me curious to see, okay, how do the 5 years that are going after this, how are they going to look? You know what I mean? As far as my career and
Well,
just seeing what happens.
And talking about cycles and talking about the interest rates. So fun fact, in the 1970s, interest rates were like at 7.3 or higher back then. Mind you, the property values were not what we're talking about today. So when I bought my first property in 2008, I just walked into the bank. I was like, can I get a loan? And they gave me a loan. So it's literally as easy as that. But now you're looking at people, and I always kind of watch that curve. They always said when interest rates spike, property value comes down. I don't think that happened in the last, call it normal cycle. And now we're seeing where property value is also at an all-time high, and then interest rates are slowly creeping more and more. So like you said, Adam, it'd be interesting to see how this affects the younger buyer coming out and how people kind of navigate in this market.
Yeah, and it's been, I mean, if you go in the 80s, like I remember my chairman, like we were doing rates, in '07, we were getting up in the 9.5, 10 range on some of these deals. And I was like, I can't do this. I can't get him to do this loan. He's like, hey, in the 80s, it was 19%, and I did loans. So he's like, toughen up, get out there and make the loan. I was like, okay. So we ended up doing a lot of deals. But I think this is just our new normal. And the values just have to adjust to what the rates are. And right now we're in that lull period where they're not really meeting up with one another. So we just work through it, and it'll all work out. It's just going to be our new normal for now. So
yeah. Stay strong. Well,
Appreciate you guys. If this is your first time listening to us here, you can always catch us on YouTube and click the link below to sign up to follow us. But every Friday, we're going to be here just talking about what's going on in the market with us and what's exciting out there in the world of real estate. Appreciate you all so much. Enjoy your weekend.
See you guys.
Hi.